Sports are exploding all across the globe, especially women in sports. WNBA's Caitlyn Clark is bringing so much attention to female athletes, which brings me to the obvious, but maybe not so obvious. We communicate through sports and around sports. Whether we are playing sports or watching it with friends, it gives us something to talk about and makes us connect with each other and ourselves. From the NFL to the WNBA, from youth soccer to the World Cup, sports connects us to our country, our city, and our community. It brings us joy and sometimes pain. Sports teach us how to work together and how to be resilient. My guest today is Zaileen Janmohamed. She is a powerhouse executive in the world of sports. She is the CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee. That's a nonprofit that is responsible for bringing sporting events to the Bay Area. And she's the former head of commercial development and innovation for the LA Olympics in 2028. She's the one who connects us to sports. She is also an advocate for women helping women. She joins me now to talk about the booming growth of sports, the changes in how we consume sports, women in sports, and how sports are connecting us like never before.
Stand by. We're going live. Going live. 10, 9, going live. 7, 6, 5, going live. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Z. How you doing?
Hi, Lita. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. What a great thing for us to talk about.
All right. Well, I have to say, I know you're very busy. You've got a lot going on. You talk about this all the time. And you're responsible for a lot, which we will get to. But what goes through your mind 10 seconds before air or 10 seconds before you have to have one of these big meetings?
Yeah, I love this question, by the way. And I know it's the thing that you talk about. And I had to really think about what it was for me. My analogy to this and using a sports analogy is if you're a driver in a pit stop in a car race, and you have 50 things happening to you at once. Your tires are getting changed, you're getting gas in the tank, people are talking to you, they're talking to you about your competitors, and there's like chaos. And right before you're ready to go, there is your car is being released to the ground and you're allowed to go. There's almost this silence and ability to just freeze for a second before you take off. That is my 10 seconds. It completely replicates what goes on in my head. It's almost like this silencing of the crowd and everything locking into place before you take off. And that's how I kind of think about big meetings that I had. I had to present to all 32 NFL owners to bring the Super Bowl to the Bay Area.
Wow.
And you can just imagine like walking into the room, you see all of these types of people and you have a message to deliver. And your heart's racing and you're hearing all of the advice that you've gotten to get you to that point. And you stand up in front of that stage. And in my head, it was almost this like quiet with adrenaline. And then you go. And there's just this confidence in taking off, knowing that you've prepared as much as you can to deliver at that point in time.
Yeah. So how did that go?
It was the best and hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life, with the exception of having kids. But I was so nervous walking in. I wanted to do that differently than what I had heard had happened before when people present and compete for Super Bowls. I wanted to tell a really authentic story. And I didn't want it to just be a template of you should come here because of these 5 reasons. And so I changed it. I made it my own. And there's some nervousness when you do that. When you go against the grain and you change the template by which things are normally done, there is a lot of tire changing, fuel advice, all the things. But I think being prepared, knowing that I could trust my gut in a situation like that, and feeling just proud of who I am, who I was representing, the community I was representing. I felt really, really good going in, and it was awesome. We won the bid, which obviously meant it went well, but I got a lot of owners, the commissioner, NFL staff saying things to me that, made me feel like, okay, if I just trusted my gut more, good things would happen.
Right. Okay, so you got the bid. So the NFL is coming to play the Super
Mhm.
Bowl in the Bay Area. What year?
So Super Bowl 60 is here February 2026.
So February 2026.
Mhm.
Wow. And what was it that you think you did, said, whatever in that room that tipped the scales to give you the Super Bowl?
I think the NFL, they're a very smart league and organization. I think that they know that they have to grow their sport and their game. I think people who watch football, who those fans are, and they know who those fans are. And for them to grow, they need to attract new fans. And the Bay Area gives them demographics of individuals who maybe don't watch today or on the cusp of watching at the frequency that the NFL wants. It's also has a large invested female population, women who are sports fans, sports participants, sports leaders in general, forget sport for a second. And it allows them this opportunity for growth, unlike many, many other cities. We also come with a focus and a responsibility to innovate in the Bay. And the NFL knows that. And I think that we will push them to change and they will push us to change. And hopefully we become better with the combination of both of our groups coming together. I'm not surprised that the NFL, when I said I'm going to change the way that we present a Super Bowl bid, said, yeah, let's see that change. I want to see it.
Right, right. So you say you're presenting to, was it 32 owners? Is that what you said?
32 NFL owners and their contingents,
right,
all in the room.
So how many of those people, or what percentage, and it doesn't have to be exact, were women?
Oof, 10.
10%
of people. 10% of people in the room were women, maybe less.
Wow,
maybe less.
Which brings me to, something I want to talk to you about is basically women in the room, women in sports. You're talking about pitching to the NFL and saying you bring them a new demographic, an opportunity for growth. Is the growth with sports with women?
Well, so it depends on how you look at it. Yeah, yes is the general answer, but there's so many ways you can dissect that question, Alita. So sport participation, number one, and you can see it in the Olympic Games right now, is starting to reach really great parity in representation. The U.S. team, I think, has more women this year than men, which I think is the first time that that's ever happened. And I think the overall Olympic ecosystem, athletes within the Olympics, are starting to trend to 50-50, if not the balance going the other way. So sport participation, at least early in youth, is, for the most part, pretty good. I think where you see variances in viewership and ratings.
And viewership, you said?
And viewership and ratings of people who watch. Some of that is because women's sports do not get the same time slots, ability to broadcast, distribution that men's sports gets. And so even if you wanted to watch, you couldn't find it in prior years. So there's differences in viewership and ratings. There's definitely differences in people who work in sport. So I've been in this industry now for 20 years. And when I was early in my career, there were very, very few women working in sport at any level. There were women, very few. The good news now is I see a lot more women working. What I want to see is women in decision-making roles, in more analytical roles, in financial-oriented, operational-oriented, CEO level type jobs where the focus, the narrative, and the vision of the organization is being dictated by someone different. Actually, it doesn't even have to be female, just someone different than what we've seen in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see that because this is an industry that is exploding, continues to grow at exponential levels, but still is sometimes steeped in a lot of tradition and in a lot of well, this is how it was done. And if you when I've been going through my career, there's a saying, right? What got you there won't get you there. What got you here won't get you there.
Mm.
It's the same in the industry. Like, if we really want to evolve as an industry, if we really want to have impact in the communities in which we live, we have to change our thinking. There has to be an EQ and a different type of decision making that just I don't see as often as I want to see today. So that's the shift that I think needs to happen still. I'm happy when I look out in a room and I see a lot more females at a conference than I ever did. What I want to see is more females at the front of the room presenting, and that's what I don't see yet. Right? That's the path we have to go down.
So you say you are seeing more women in the room or participating. They're just not in the positions that you'd like to see them in. So as a female leader, as someone who is in one of those positions, what do you do to help those women out, to get them wanting it as well, and then having that other half see that they also need them?
This is my favorite question, Leah, because I want to answer it, and it feels like a little bit of a little softball for me, so I feel good.
Okay, well, they'll get harder. This one I can take, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. So I think when you get the opportunity to be in a role where you can actually influence change, and you want to influence, you feel comfortable influencing change. This isn't for everyone. For me, I am in the opportunity to do it, and I really feel comfortable and feel like it's my responsibility to do so. So there's a couple things that I've done in this role. The first is I have an all-female C-suite. I did that on purpose because I felt like through my career, I saw individuals who were amazing, completely skilled, technically sound, could do their jobs, but weren't sitting in an environment where it was normal for a female to be in a leadership position. And so when someone put me in my position, I said, well, how about now? Why not now? If I've seen that happen, I know who those people are. I can put them in the positions where someone needs to just give them the shot, and I want to give them a shot. And so I can't think of another organization in sport, at least the one that I know of, that has an all-female C-suite. I get asked about it a lot because it's new, but hopefully it becomes something that's normal and doesn't actually have to be talked about anymore. It's just, this is how it is. Because no one's saying, just on the other side of that, no one's saying I have an all-male C-suite.
No.
That's right.
Like, I do have to talk about it right now. Right. I do talk about it out loud because
I get it.
I am proud of it, but I also want people to be able to see, like, this is, and we're doing okay.
Mm-hmm. And
we're killing it. And we know what we're talking about, and you don't see any difference in our organization than anything else that you work with, right? So at some point, I really do hope that it becomes normalized, and I don't have to talk about it anymore, but I do. The other thing that I've started to work on, I've been doing this one for a few years now, is I noticed at maybe 13, 14 years into my career, I was in a position where I was presenting to a lot of C-suite individuals, CMOs, CEOs, financial decision makers, about the things that our company should be investing in. This was when I was at Visa. And what I noticed is that there were not a lot of women comfortable doing those types of presentations or doing that type of work. And so I called my alma mater, my graduate school at UMass, and I got my sport management degree, my graduate degree from them. And I said, they wanted a donation. I was like, I will give you a donation, but if I give you a donation, this is the type of skill that I want to develop in women. And so we put together a women in sport business curriculum. It's all case study based, and it's all around, how do you solve problems in the gray with analytics? How do you present a solution which is compelling, has a really great narrative, get somebody to nod their head at the end of the presentation? And that's a completely different skill set than, what you normally walk into school with, which could be like a lot of event execution, a lot of detail-oriented work. I want to bring our skill level to a completely different place, which is what is needed in a higher, senior level type of position, which is all like, you're not going to have all the information all the time. How do you make a decision in that environment? How do you get comfortable in the gray? How do you present something in a really compelling way because you have a point of view? What does that skill set look like? And how do we teach that?
So what's happening with that now? So you said, sure, I'll give you the donation.
That program, I think, has been going on for 3 years now. They've now expanded it. So now it's a larger program. So the curriculum actually is going to exist for more people. And I teach at it. I teach a class every semester. I have a lot of my female colleagues that, teach separate classes through the semester. And it's, I'm now seeing people who have graduated from that program coming back to me and being like, I get it. I get it now. Right. So, I need to see that now for another 10 years to really see impact, but it's lasted and I'm seeing some of the effects of it now.
So talk about the communication side of it, because I feel like you sort of touched on it there. How much of it is communication for women? Are they able to communicate? Do you see that they communicate differently? Do you see that where do they fall there?
I think for sure women communicate differently. We obviously, in our internal staff meetings, I think that there is probably two ways that we do things differently compared to some jobs that I've had in the past. The first is we understand, or at least it appears that we understand, that there is a lot of things that each of us are dealing with, and work is one of those things. And so there is an understanding, without even anything being said, that multiple things have gone into a discussion item, a decision that was made, and that we might not understand all of those things. There's nothing that ever feels like it's no one's ever attacking anyone because they're like, hey, listen, I don't know everything that's happened here. And people say that off the bat. So I think that's the first piece. The other thing is, I feel like there's just more transparency, right? Like, people are very quick to be like, I actually didn't know the answer to this, so someone help me.
They don't make it up.
Right. They don't make it up. It's just, guys, I don't know. What do you guys think the answer is? And you get, and that you get to a place so much faster than any like bravado or any, like, of course I know the answer, or like, we should totally do it this way. If people don't know the answer, they're just like, I think this is right. What do you guys think? Like, this is how I've made the decision. You tell me. Or if there's, God forbid, a mistake, it's very quick. You guys, that was on me. I screwed it up. I shouldn't have said that. I did. How do we fix it? And so we get to some things just more quickly because there's no ego in the room. It's just, here's what it is.
Do you feel like some of your leadership skills come from your background in sports?
Oh, I think a lot of it comes from my background in sports. I think I tend to want to lead decisively, yes, but also not by micromanaging, by everyone feeling like they have a really important part of work and they're a really important piece of the team, and I actually don't have to be involved. I think that all comes from playing a team sport. I think I'm okay being the one that either has to be, doing the grinding work in the corners, but also can play center and score a goal. Like, I can play all different types of positions, whatever's needed at any point in time, and I'm comfortable with that because that's what I did when I played. I'm also really comfortable. I'm Canadian. I played ice hockey growing up in a time where not a lot of girls played ice hockey. And so I played on boys teams. I think that's why, like, today, I'm also okay being the person in the room that doesn't agree with everyone else and says, I don't like that idea. Like, there's a lot of meetings I have with the NFL, with FIFA, where I'm like, I don't agree. We're not going to do that over here.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes from growing up, in a culture, being Indian, in a time when girls didn't play, where I had to be okay doing something different and just be confident in that.
Right. So you played ice hockey growing up in Canada. That's not a little thing in Canada. That's a big deal. You're
born playing ice hockey. You're born with like skates on.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You had to have those surgically removed at some point.
Exactly. The difference for me, Alito, was my parents, I was first generation Canadian. My parents both immigrated from East Africa, and my grandparents are Indian. And so for them, having like an Indian daughter born playing ice hockey, they were kind of like, this is not, this is, the movie I talk about all the time is Bend It Like Beckham. Like that story in Bend It Like Beckham is my story growing up. I literally had to hide gear to go play because my parents weren't comfortable when I was young. They're there now.
What did they want you to do?
Read.
Mm-hmm.
Read, ballet, gymnastics. My mom put me in a lot. There's a lot of pink. Like it was that's what they wanted me to do. Like the sports and activities they were comfortable with that were normalized for girls. That's what they wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they were, they were protective, but they were also scared. They're in a new country where they don't, necessarily know how things work and how to protect their daughter. And so that's the way they felt like they needed to do that.
Right.
So,
and standing out is probably not an option, right?
No standing out.
No standing out. Yeah.
No standing out.
Right. So let's talk about Caitlyn Clark for a second.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what she's done to women's sports, to, wow, I mean, so much, it goes on and on, right? Financially, the conversation has changed. Everything has changed. I was also a college athlete. I was a Division I college athlete. So for me to see someone who comes into a Division I sport like she has and changed the conversation, made people pay attention, made men pay attention as well, and really respect her. Wow. That's, I'm too old for that. That did not happen in my day. That was not an option. But wow, I'm makes me proud.
Yeah. I think that we are still in a time across a lot of different topics. Women's sports is women and gender equality is one of those issues where we need people like Caitlyn Clark to help. And if we don't think we need that help, we're missing an opportunity. And we're just not being real with ourselves right now. It reminds me of conversations, where people ask me, in the state of California, there's a law that requires a certain percentage of the board of directors of companies to be female. And there's a lot of arguments of like, should there be a law? Why don't people just do it on their own, et cetera? Until the time where this naturally happens on its own, you need help, right? And so Caitlyn Clark is the best thing and the most current thing that is going to help women's sports right now. And we should thank her for what she's doing to increase the financial infrastructure and just benefit that's coming into the league, broadcast rights, player care, ability to fly between cities and games in a different way than maybe was never done before. But I would say we should thank her for even the conversation that is happening that otherwise would not happen, right? The great thing that very good sports leagues do, the NBA does this really well, is even if there's not a compelling highlight from the playing field, the court on a particular night, chances are there's something happening in culture around the NBA that you're talking about. Someone's made a comment, so whatever. And it might not be a good story, but there's a story. And the NBA usually is very comfortable with being part of the story, no matter what the story is. And that's just being part of culture. What Caitlyn Clark is doing for us right now, you may not like that she got shoved by a player or she shoved a player, or she said, but you're talking about her. And the fact that you're talking about her means that it's part of culture and part of the conversation. And we need it to be part of culture and the conversation, right? My kids are 13 and 11. They're talking about the WNBA. I don't know if they would have been otherwise.
Are they girls or are they boys?
They're boys.
They're boys.
I have two boys, both avid basketball players, play, watch the Warriors play. Don't think they would have been talking about the WNBA otherwise. They're talking about it now. They're walking around with Valkyrie's logos right now because it's relevant. It's part of culture and it's what they talk about at school. I think what she does on the court is unbelievable. I can't believe what I see sometimes, but I think more importantly, it's what she does off the court that benefits all of us, including me sitting in my chair, that we just need to be aware of, be okay with, and hopefully expect more of from her or others, as we kind of go down this path.
Right. As far as you're talking about, she's changing the conversation, making us have a conversation that we weren't necessarily having before. And then you're also touching on something that I think happens behind the scenes that the rest of us don't have an opportunity to look at, but you really do. And it's that connection with community. And what's happening behind the scenes? For example, you've got the Super Bowl coming, you've got FIFA coming to San Francisco, and then what's the third one? The
NBA All-Star Game. Yep.
NBA All-Star Game. So what's happening behind the scenes? Because all of that could come, but if none of us knew about it or connected with it, you really didn't do your job, right?
That's exactly right. I feel like you sit on our staff meeting sometimes.
Maybe I will when this call is done.
Eavesdropping in my, yeah, the thing we talk about in our, within our team meetings is if all we do is operate the events, we fail, because the events will come and go. It's for a very defined and sometimes really small time period. And they're going to go to another city, and we're going to be, the NFL will pack up and they'll be like, okay, where's the next one happening? So for us, it's we have to operate them and execute them as exceptionally as we possibly can. They have to be safe. People have to feel like they can get in and around the Bay. Yes, all of those things have to happen. The most important thing we can do, though, is making sure the people who come and visit the Bay and the people who live in the Bay feel like they've been positively impacted somehow by those events. A lot of what we talk about in that is around inclusivity and accessibility, right? So how do we make sure that if not the game, if not Super Bowl, how do people who are living in the Bay feel like they have access to that event somehow because they live here, because they are citizens in this community? How do we actually positively impact people in this community who are, underestimated? People don't assume that they can either go, participate, work, be impacted by, because they're a population that's just underestimated. How do we look at those people, and what are we doing for them? And so those are things that we actually spend more time on, I would say, ourselves, thinking through programming that we want to put together, and also convincing our leagues that's important to do, right? So convincing the NBA, convincing the NFL, convincing FIFA that it's not just about you coming in and doing an event, and not just about you bringing a legacy program that you think is templated for each city you go to. What are the problems that actually exist in the Bay, and how can you have the most impact here? And what do we need to do here? That's actually what I'm most excited by.
For example, what's happening behind the scenes for any of those big events that you now have coming that we don't necessarily see, but we'll see kind of the results of?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you exactly what, because we're going to do some nice fun announcements. But what I will say is, look for programming that comes out of the host committee. Number one, that you won't expect, has technology and innovation at its core, and benefits or includes people who don't necessarily get access. That is what we actually really want to make sure we stand for. And then convincing leagues and organizations that don't just do it in the Bay. Like, if it works here, go start doing this as a replicable program. When you do a Super Bowl in LA, when you do the one after that, think about these events differently than maybe what you've thought about before. And by the way, the leagues have been awesome. They are open to this thinking. They want host committees and sports commission to teach them about their market and to do things that are innovative and new. But that's what you'll see. You'll see and soon. It won't be long. Very soon we'll start to announce some of those things.
You worked on, is it LA28 it's called? I call it the Olympics 2028. They're coming to LA and really soon. This is around the corner. What should we expect? What can you what preview can you give us about the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have, in a matter of a couple weeks, a handover ceremony, right? So Paris 24 is happening right now. At their closing ceremonies, they will officially hand over the next Olympic Games to LA. And so you'll start to see some LA integration and influence already within the handover. LA is going to be awesome. I started with that organization when they were very, very young and in startup mode. And they had a vision to just think about those games again very differently, maybe others have in the past. And they had the backing and backstop of doing a great job changing the Olympic movement when they hosted the games in '84. So there was not only pressure, but there was precedent in games in LA really, really changing the Olympic movement. And so I think they've already announced new sports. So you're going to see cricket and you're going to see flag football. You're going to see sports that haven't been introduced to games before. And in areas where, again, like growth of sport, cricket in the United States, that's a defining moment for LA28 to say, hey, listen, this isn't a sport that was born here, but we know that the people who live here play it and they love it, and we want to include it. And so that it's a statement that they're making of just the growth and the popularity of sports that maybe aren't inherent to American culture, but are played by so many people in the diverse region that it is, we're going to make it an Olympic sport. So you're going to see, those are the types of differences that you're going to start to see out of LA28. I think they're going to have a completely renewed and innovative focus on the Paralympic Games and what you see about the Paralympics. I think the broadcast of Paralympic Games is going to be different and more equal, and equitable to what you see on the Olympic side. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what happens out of LA. They're gonna push the envelope.
Pickleball, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm maybe overly competitive in pickleball. It's a problem. I love the sport. They haven't included that sport, have they? I don't think it's in. But
pickleball, I don't know.
One day, I hope it is. And talk about an inclusive sport, right? I can play that with whoever. It's just,
yeah, you can play that with whoever, and it's a good time.
Yeah.
And how about padel? Do you know anything about padel? Tell
me more.
Padel is paddle, but padel is the sport from, well, I want to say from Spain, only because I've played it in Spain. But that I've read that is leading pickleball in the globe, around the globe. Yeah.
Really?
So I don't even know. It may be an Olympic sport. I don't know, but I did want to ask you about that to see if you knew anything about that.
I feel like that's actually not good that there's a sport I don't know, because now I'll go try to find a way to play that one. I don't have time to learn a new sport. But
yeah, I don't doubt you'd be great at padel if it comes up. I have this feeling that eye-hand coordination is not difficult for you.
And now, because I have one of them is a teenager, like I'm playing something all the time because they're so active. So,
right.
And we might be a very competitive family. So,
right. What other things have come up that we really don't get to see when it comes to either new sports that are coming, innovation with sports? I feel like you're on the edge, the cutting edge of sports and innovation, just maybe because you're out of San Francisco and you're, if it's going to come from anywhere, it's going to come from there. Where are we not in the obvious thinking about sports, connecting with sports? Where is that happening?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest areas I've seen a lot of change is in how you watch, right? And so when you and I, Alita, and I'm going to make an assumption, when you and I were growing up, we watched on television, on one of probably 3 channels that showed you whatever was on. You didn't really get to choose. It was just, if it was on, great, you got to watch it. And what you're seeing now is this disbursement and fragmentation of media distribution in sport, and a lot of competition, right, of how and where it's shown, which has been really fascinating to me. It's caused a significant increase in rights to rights holders. So like the NFL, NBA, all of those people are making so much more money now because there's just more competition to get access to those rights. It's harder for a fan to actually understand where they need to go to watch a particular sport on a particular night. So you need to be savvier as a consumer to be like, okay, it's Thursday night. That means I have to watch my Thursday night broadcast on Prime Video. But on Sunday, I'm going to watch on this and this and this, right? So like leagues have had to get better at communicating with you on where to watch on given nights.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's just different now on how you watch and how you consume. The other thing that's been really interesting to see is I've been watching how my kids consume, right? My kid, I can watch a game from start to finish. In fact, I want to. I want to know the storylines. I want to see the cheerleader. I want to see the whole game experience either in person or sitting on my couch. They want to see the 10-minute recap with the goals. And they want to see that 50 times in 50 different ways. So they want to see the goal from this angle via YouTube. Then they want to see it on whatever else here. They probably want to see it in visual reality or augmented reality if I could get it to them. So that they are less patient in watching the entirety of the thing, want it super condensed in a variety of different ways. They'll spend the same amount of time, but they want like the key moments in ways that are really exciting and compelling, and then they'll go talk to their friends about it, right? And they'll text each other. Or
that's really interesting. That's really interesting because I feel like of all entertainment consumption, I get it with other things, but when it comes to sports, it feels to me like sports is the one thing you have to see live. It is sort of holding on to its old tradition, but you're saying, wow, I don't have kids that are that young, but if they're consuming it like that, what does the future look like?
They want the info. Like they want the info as soon as it happens. Just what they want to see is different. My kids also, will see a highlight and then they'll get on EA Sports or whatever they're gaming, and they'll try to replay what they just saw by playing a video game. And so
wait a second. Wait. Explain that.
They'll watch a 49ers game. Let's just say that, right? And there'll be a great play that they see Brock Purdy run with his offense. My younger one, who's 11, will get right back on Madden and say, okay, the coach called this play with this type of defense, and he'll replay that play again in a video game. And I'm sitting there like, I don't know what play he called. I just know that he scored a touchdown. Like, so their ability to read things in real life and then try to replicate them, or vice versa, whichever direction you go in, is like he knows all of the 49ers offensive plays because he games and then he watches. I didn't know that growing up. I just wanted to watch the game and see what the score was at the end. Like I knew a little bit of the analytics. The information available to them is just different.
So what do you think the future looks like then?
I think that you're going to be able to be in the game without being there. It's going to get so tight and synced. And we've talked about like how virtual reality works. I think that you're going to be able to not have to go to the game, but be able to be in the game, call plays in the game, even if it's from like a fantasy perspective. So you're not actually calling, you're going to be able to do that in a really, really succinct way. It's going to be crazy.
Is that happening at all in any way right now?
I think you're starting to see it. I think when I think the NFL, if it might have been last season, that they did an integration with Toy Story, right? And you started to see them have their broadcast and then have an alternate broadcast that was graphically different, specific to a very specific demographic. And they did. You watched the regular game, and then there was this exact same game going, but with, replicated with features that were very specific to a targeted population. Right? It's already happening. It's just, we'll get there will be multiple versions of that, so that you can get really specific to who you are.
Mm-hmm. So, young people who maybe want to get into the world of sports, work in it. Any advice for them?
This is an industry where you have to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good. And what I mean by that is you have to work really hard. It is an industry that requires a lot of hustle because the supply of people that want to work in it exceeds the demand, right? Like there's an inequity in number of positions and number of people. And so, it takes a lot of grit to be working in sport. And that's not just when you get in. I feel like I'm working as hard today as I did when I first started. Now, if you work really hard and you find a niche that is authentic to who you are, and because that just makes you better and is in an area where the business is growing, then you start getting lucky. Like I feel like there's definitely parts of my career, Alita, that I didn't necessarily know I was going to do, but the position presented itself at a time in my life where I was ready to take the position. When in your life, for me, when I took this position, I was like, when am I going to have an opportunity at that time to work on a World Cup in my backyard? And when was I actually going to be ready to take on that type of position? I was ready. I'd done enough work and had enough experience, and a World Cup was coming to my city. That's luck. Like, that doesn't happen all the time, right? So I had to do this part. I had to do all the work to get myself to this place where I felt like I had the right skill set. And then I needed a little bit of luck to be like, okay, here's what's happening in your backyard, so you can actually do those things. That is this industry. Like, you have to put in the time and the effort and build a network, and have enough foresight to be like, where is this industry going, and what skill set do I need to develop so that I'm ready to take that on. And then you're going to need some good fortune along the way.
So just to wrap up, what's coming to California, we'll say, or, the Bay Area? You've got FIFA. That's 2020. What's happening in 2025?
Yeah.
Is that
all right? So let's go in order.
Okay.
So we have the NBA All-Star Game, February 2025, Super Bowl 60 in February of 2026, the FIFA World Cup in June, July 2026. And then let's see what happens after that. My hope is to bid for a few more events, some women's events.
Right.
We will be the only region that has ever hosted a Super Bowl and a FIFA World Cup in 1 year. Nobody has ever done that before, and unlikely that anybody will ever do it in the future. It's very rare. And then we have 3 events in 18 months. So we're You're working. There's a lot.
You're working. Thanks for taking the time out.
Of course.
So what do you see as the biggest event in all of that? Is it FIFA because that's more global?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you want to answer that question. FIFA, from a viewership perspective, 3 billion, 4 billion people will watch the FIFA World Cup. It's a month-long tournament. We'll have 6 matches in the Bay Area. So for us, in terms of time frame, number of people who will visit the city, number of people who will see the city, bigger. That being said, we do live in the US, and the 49ers are a very big team here and across the country. So, the Super Bowl, also very, very big event, with a lot of pressure because we've done it before here. We did it in 2016. So both of those in the same year are going to be big events. The good news is that we will be able, I think there'll be some efficiencies across both. And then the NBA All-Star Game, this one for me, it'll be, I think, 25 years since the city has hosted an All-Star Game. The significant growth in popularity of basketball here because of the success of the Warriors, because of Stephen, will make this, and Steph's getting towards retirement age, right? So it'll be a very emotional, I think, event in the city. I think it'll be the event that the community feels the most about, just has a lot of feels, because of how important the Warriors have been to this community and what they've done recently here. So scale and emotion is probably a little bit different for that one here. They're all going to be really different.
Yeah. Exciting. Anything I didn't ask you, Z, that we should talk about? I feel like we covered a lot of things, and I have a feeling we'll probably be talking again as we get rolling into these things. Only because you're going to want to take a break from what you're doing and take time to
have a conversation.
Yeah, just have a conversation.
I'm happy to come back whenever you want me to come back. I think for all those listening, be excited, right? Be excited about what's happening in the Bay. I'm super excited about it. I think it's a great time to be a resident of the region, particularly with how COVID affected us. And so I'm excited to use sport to reignite the region, to unite the region, look for things that we do. Hopefully we change the game a little bit. This is an awesome time to be a sports fan and just to be an observer. All the things we talked about today with Caitlyn Clark, where the industry is going, I think we have some really good leadership across the board, not even here, that are thinking about what's the future of sport going to look like. And I think it's in really, really good hands. So I'm excited. I'm a fan at times too, just watching it all play out.
How can you not? I think you have a pretty cool job. I hope you think you have a cool job.
I do. I'm
Yeah.
trying to go for mom of the year. The kids, I want the kids to think I have a really cool job.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
Right.
Yeah.
That takes a long time. I don't
It
even
does.
know. I feel like that's something they don't necessarily just give you.
Darn it.
Yeah.
I really thought
My
I'd
kids are a
won that
little
one.
bit older than yours, and it's just once in a while it's like, wow, that's pretty cool, Mom. You know, that's kind
Yeah,
of
I
it.
want that. I'm looking for that.
Yeah,
more.
you'll get there.
Okay. All right. You say so.
When you say I'm going with Steph Curry, I gotta get to the game, and and they'll be like, what?
You're right. That's exactly
Yeah.
what happened. I
Yeah.
think I met Stephen at a game whenever it was, when they were still in season. I came back and showed my younger one the picture, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Mom,
now
that's
you're
cool." I'm
yeah.
like, "Oh,
Now you're on the map, Mom. Now
All
you're on
right.
the map.
making my way."
Forget about all the other stuff that you've
Yeah.
done behind the scenes. But
Yeah,
you know what?
doesn't
That
matter.
one, now you're on the map.
Yep.
Well, Zaileen, thank you so much for joining me and us and talking about all this. It's such great work. It's fun work and all of that. But on top of it, it's really important. I mean, women in sports, women helping women, all of that is just, it just betters all of us.
I agree, and I want to thank you, because you need to talk to people about this, and people need to hear it. So you're playing as important a role as I am. So appreciate it.